Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today to the press conference. On behalf of Richard Sturm, MGM Grand, and the entire MGM Mirage family, what a great way to kick off the 2010 UFC campaign with Saturday night's fight and main event between Thiago Silva and Rashad Evans. Housekeeping notes, current odds up on the board, and Jay Rude will put up other odds for some of the other fights on the card, but Rashad is currently a 2-1 favorite, minus 200, and Silva is plus 170. Again, want to thank our partners at UFC, Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, President Dana White, Jennifer Wank and her PR team, Rachel Trontel, Diane Brizolara, and Joe Fernandez. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dana White, President of UFC, who will take you through the press conference.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. This is a great week for MMA. There's a lot of things going on here. A lot of fans in town for New Year's, plus, for probably more going on in the MMA world here in Las Vegas ever, other than UFC 100. A lot of fun things going on. Obviously, the fight this weekend, many of you know, we probably, in the history of the company, never gone through as many injuries and craziness that's happened to us in the last few months. But like I always say, we deliver fights. That's what we do. We don't, when we put on fight cards, or boxing puts on fight cards, or whoever, people fall off and the fight has to be canceled and rescheduled. That's not the case, despite how bad everything has been. We put together a great card for this weekend. Just to walk through, I mean, you don't even have to say, walk through some of the records of some of these guys. 9-2 versus 22-6, 18-6 versus 21-5, 6-1 versus 15-4. I mean, we put together a great fight card. And obviously the co-main event and the main event, Paul Daley and Dustin Hazelett, probably the, another case of the classic striker versus grappler. Paul Daley burst into the scene. He's got a record of 22-8. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Huge win over Martin Kampmann. Knocking out Martin Kampmann was a big win for him. Immediately catapulted him into the top of the division, and now a win over Dustin Hazelett definitely makes this kid somebody to be reckoned with in that weight division. Dustin, he has a record of 14-4. I think it's 10 of his wins have been by submission. This kid is a amazing jiu-jitsu specialist. He pulls off some crazy submissions, and he's obviously going to be looking to take this thing to the ground. And Paul's going to want to keep this thing standing. Main event, Evans and Silva, two hungry, young heavyweights, talented guys. Both of these guys were previously undefeated, one 14-1, one 18-1 until they fought Lyoto Machida. Both these guys have a loss to Machida, the only loss on their records. Both these guys are fired up, young, aggressive, hungry to win and get back in that light heavyweight picture. I wanted to speed this thing up, get it going. Everybody knows everybody here, so let's open this thing up for questions. Neil? Hi.
What happened to the Madichenko-Cantwell fight?
Just like 97 other fights in the last couple of months, that one fell apart. Cantwell has some medical problems, and he might not ever fight again.
Anything you can say more?
I'd rather not. I'd rather have you ask him.
And given the number of injuries that you've had recently, have you guys sort of had a look at them? Do you think this is just a freak run, or is it because of the nature of the sport, the number of shows you're putting on? Do you think there are any factors to it?
No, I mean, we put on a lot of shows last year too, and this didn't happen. It's just one of those things. Guys are getting injured. It's never happened in 9 years, and we're just going through the streak. And again, this is a physical sport. These guys train hard. I don't think people really realize. You can watch it on TV, you can see it. You don't realize what goes into mixed martial arts training, and it's actually shocking that we haven't had injuries like this sooner. I mean, but there's some freak stuff out there, like what happened to Brock Lesnar. You got guys putting their arms, cut himself on sheet metal. You got, some weird, goofy stuff too.
Dana?
Yeah.
You've spoken in the past about a team of guys that you have that calculate pay-per-view buy rates when you put together main events. Do you have projections for this show?
I'll know more probably Thursday or Friday. Yeah, I'll have a better idea. But I can tell you this. I can tell you this. You know, you guys know how, you know, the media loves to write negative shit. It's what they love to do. And, you know, it drives me crazy sometimes, you know, especially when guys are writing stuff. A recent reporter wrote something about the momentum being killed in the UFC. The momentum has never been better. It's never been bigger. Our last two shows, even with the fallouts and everything that we've had happen, have been amazing pay-per-view numbers. You know, this thing continues to go. We continue to pull killer numbers on television. The momentum hasn't died at all. And, you know, this is a great fight card with great fighters.
Quick follow-up. There have been some reports that UFC 107 did over 600,000 pay-per-view buys. Can you confirm that?
Sounds good to me. Like I said, there's been no shift in momentum whatsoever. At the end of the day, if you're a fight fan, you want to see good fights. You know, there's no doubt that over the last few months, we've had some big headliners fall out. You know, this guy's one of the best light heavyweights in the world. Coming off season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, wins the championship. You know, he's beat some of the best guys in the world. Has only lost to Lyoto Machida. This guy's exciting and fun to watch. Always in an exciting fight. And these two both want to get back on top. Like I said, when I started reading some of the numbers, if you're a fight fan, you want to see good fights, I guarantee you there's going to be some good fights on Saturday night, period.
Thank you.
Dana, to follow up on some of the questioning, you still sell your pay-per-views by stars, though, don't you? Because guys like Brock are bigger attractions than other guys. So in a way, you're not that undifferent from the boxing model where, like, Pacquiao Mayweather is going to sell all the pay-per-views on that particular card. Where do you think your difference comes then? Because obviously your big stars do your best draws. Mm-hmm. How do you think your secondary fights help your the overall pay-per-view sale?
Well, here's the difference. Boxing isn't doing 30-something shows a year. We are, between pay-per-view and live TV. So if you look at, for instance, this gentleman heard we did over 600,000 buys on the last the fight, and our minimum right now is around 500,000. So we had 2 fights within 1 month. We had the Tito fight, and then we had the BJ Penn fight. So within a month, we had 2 pay-per-views, our minimum being 500. He heard we did over 600. It's a lot of pay-per-view buys in less than 1 month. So, these guys writing stories about the momentum is dying, this isn't a good card.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, what do you attribute the success to then if, it seems like the stars are what sells and UFC is something
if your minimum is 500,000 buys,
right.
Do you realize how many pay-per-view buys that is?
No, I understand, but when you go above that, to exceed that, what do you attribute that to? So I guess what I'm
saying. Definitely star power. There's always going to be, guys who push the needle and get that thing up to 750, a million, whatever it is. But, those are mega fights. When you're doing 34 fights a year, shit, I wish we were doing 1 million every time we did a pay-per-view. It just doesn't work that way. Plus, the trending and buying. Not everybody's going to buy every fight. People will buy certain ones. And then you have the, guys who are real fight fans and want to see great fights. They'll buy them.
I have a question for Paul. Paul, are you overlooking Dustin at all? Looking forward to a possible, showdown with Carlos Condit?
No, it would be stupid of me to overlook Dustin. He's a tough, credible guy with great submission skills. I'm just looking at this fight. I'm not looking beyond this fight.
And kind of a follow-up to that, Paul, if I could. What were your thoughts when Dustin was presented as a possible opponent? Obviously, this is a different style of opponent entirely.
Being a striker, I'm always going to come up against grapplers, so nothing changed too much in my mindset or my game plan. I'm always going to want to keep the fight standing and always going to be trying to knock people out. So as far as that goes, nothing really changed. I was looking forward to fighting Carlos because, as I explained to a few journalists, in my mind, I was a WEC champion. He came in, Campman beat him. Campman was a WEC champion. I came in and beat Campman, so I wanted, that little battle, that little concept, but that didn't work out. But, I'm still co-main event and fighting a tough guy.
And how much, on a daily basis do you focus on your grappling skills? Because maybe from a simple breakdown, it looks like a very striker versus grappler matchup, and then maybe the grappling is sometimes your kryptonite, so to speak.
Yeah, of course, it would be ignorant for me not to train on the ground, but more so than that, I just want to keep the fight standing. So I'm training everything I can do to keep the fight standing and avoid the submission game, you know.
If I could, for Dustin, please. What about your thoughts on this matchup? We've seen some interviews with you lately where you said you feel pretty confident in your stand-up and you feel pretty good about it. But, you know, is this the type of opponent where it makes absolutely no sense to stand there and try to bang with them, or do you feel confident enough that you could try to do that?
I'm not by any means going to try to make this a brawl. I mean, I'm not the strongest guy. I'm not the fastest guy. You know, I got where I am through, hard work and intelligence. And, I always try to go with the path of least resistance, which almost every fight for me has been getting it to the ground, and I don't think there's really going to be any different, I don't think there's any, I don't think I'm going to spoil any, strategy by saying that, taking this to the ground is going to be my easiest path to victory.
Did you take much time off after the incident last time, or did you go immediately back to the gym?
I took, usually the week of the fight I rest a lot, so I had that off, and I took a little, a couple days after that off, but then I was right back in the gym.
Questions for both Dustin, Paul, and as well as Dana, this side over here. Obviously, with plan A failing, be it Paul, your striking, and Dustin, your grappling, you got to go to plan B. And so the question I have is, do you guys feel like, Dustin, do you feel you're a better striker than Paul as a grappler, and vice versa?
I don't think I'm a better grappler than Dustin. I ain't gonna lie to you. His fight record proves it is a far superior grappler than me, and that's not what I specialize in. But if plan A does fail, which I highly doubt it will, in me knocking him out and keeping the fight standing, then there is a plan B. But we'll see on the night.
Well, I've been working really hard on my striking for a long time, and I look forward to this fight because I like fighting opponents that have the ability to defeat me. If I go into a fight and I think there's no possible way I can lose this fight, it's not fun for me. I don't want to fight a fight like that. So, that's what I enjoy about this sport, is knowing that I have to be on my best or I'm going to lose.
And Dana, just to follow up on the fight in general, Paul came into the UFC just guns a-blazing, taking out Campman. Dustin's always had a lot of hype around him. What does this fight mean for the winner in the division?
Yeah, it's a big fight for that weight division, and it puts one of these guys right in the mix. This is a big fight for these two. And like I said, knocking off Campman was huge. So the winner of this fight is in a very good position in this weight division.
Question for Thiago. Do you feel slighted that so much of the focus has been on Rashad's supposed fight with Rampage, that people are overlooking you and your skills?
Você se sente diminuído porque as pessoas têm prestado muita atenção na luta com o Rashad contra o Rampage, nem tem falado muito de você contra ele?
Não, porque essa é uma grande luta para mim, eu estou preparado, acho que o Rashad é excelente atleta, para mim é uma oportunidade muito boa.
No, because for me this is a big fight. Rashad is a great athlete, and I think this is a great opportunity for me. It's going to be a good fight.
Hey, over here. My question is for Rashad. In the past, when you've had long layoffs and you've been out of the octagon for a while, you seem to benefit from that layoff. Do you think this is fighting such a tough fighter like Thiago, this layoff is good for you?
I think it was definitely good for me, especially being on the Ultimate Fighter show. I had a great chance to work with a lot of different guys and a lot of the training partners and coaches that came through the show. So it's kind of a rejuvenating process, and it allowed me to simplify my game a little bit more and just touch up on some things that I've long forgotten about, and to just get back to what I need to do to get on the road to victory.
Do you think also that time off allows you to put the fight with Machida in the past and move forward?
Yeah, it definitely did. Losing in such a devastating fashion is never easy to overcome. But having that time in there to see where you went wrong and the mistakes that you've made to put yourself in that position, the time off definitely benefited from that and helped me to get focused and get the hunger back I need to pursue the title again.
And Dana, this is a question regarding Rashad's potential fight with Rampage. Will this fight, whether win or lose for Rashad, have any impact on potential showdown with Rampage?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to beat Thiago on Saturday to get that shot with Rampage.
Okay. And also, lastly, there's been some talk about the fighters being injured and what have you, and as you quoted a reporter saying that if this was a downward turn, I guess, for UFC, could also be looked at as how strong the UFC is, because you can lose so many big-name fighters and still put on impressive cards and still attract fans.
Yeah, I think the thing is it's funny because it's always the cards that everybody go, oh, this isn't the big card, because it's not a UFC 100 lineup. But anybody that doesn't think this guy's a star wasn't in the lobby of the MGM yesterday when he walked in here. You know, like I said, people like to stir up shit, and I couldn't disagree more. And it's always the cards that they think are the lackluster ones that end up being one of the best cards of the year. And I guarantee you that this fight's going to be great on Saturday. These guys, we always put together fights, and these guys always deliver, always.
Rashad, this is sort of a follow-up on Franklin's question. On the Countdown show, one of your coaches, I believe, said there isn't a day that goes by where you don't think about the belt or losing it. I wonder, is that true? And if that's the case, is that a burden or is it a motivation?
It's true, and you know, it's kind of something that's just something that happened in the past, but it's just like anything else that happened in the past that helped to motivate me to become the person I am today. You know, it's something there, and it's something that you never forget because it helps you harness your focus in whenever you get a little distracted and get off trail. You know, when those days where you don't feel like training and you want to take it easy, but then you think about how you lost. And then you're like, you know what, let me go in there and do a couple more rounds so that way that doesn't happen again. So I don't take it as a burden. I just take it as something that helps me harness my focus in.
Rashad, a question for you. How much do you think the exposure you got on the Ultimate Fighter has changed the perception of you among the public?
I think it changed the perception of me in public big time. You know, before that, people didn't really get a chance to see what kind of person I am. You know, they got to see me, you know, right before I fight, and then they got to see me when I'm in the cage, but that's about 15 minutes. You know, when they got to see me over like a 13-week process and got to see how I interact with other people, then they could relate to me on a different level. And that was probably one of the biggest reasons why they didn't really understand me or just didn't really like me at all, because they only got to see me for such a short period of time. But now when they got to see me on a coach and relate to people and help people out, then they got to see what kind of person I truly am.
And how much do you think the way you handled yourself in the series was, you know, kind of Greg Jackson's influence on you? Because I know he seems to have the kind of style that you had personally on the show.
You know, I can't say that I didn't learn a lot from my coaches in general. You know, Greg Jackson, Trevor Whitman, Mike Van Arsdale. Those guys are definitely somebody that I've carried my coaching style through, because those are the guys who guided me to help me to reach my goals. So ultimately, I do have a piece of each of them in me, and definitely Greg Jackson is a big influence on the way I coached.
And when you look now at yourself, you know, 10 years down the line, can you see yourself staying in the sport and just coaching when you're fighting? You know, maybe 10 years isn't long enough, but when your fighting career is over, being a coach and trying to develop other fighters because of this experience?
Yeah, being a coach is something I would love to do, you know, just to be able to give back to the sport and to never get out of sport, because I love the sport so much, and I'm married to it in such a depth that it's something I can't walk away from after I put down the gloves.
Dana, I have a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about the Junior Dos Santos fight with Gilbert Bravo?
Yeah, I'm excited about that fight. Obviously, everybody knows the role Junior's been on, and then Gilbert Ivell is an incredible striker. And I think that's going to be a fun fight. I think it's going to be fireworks.
Is it being overlooked at all, do you think?
I don't think that it's being overlooked. I just think that, you know, since MMA has grown here in the United States, you know, I don't think a lot of people know who Gilbert Ivell is. And one of the things that we're doing, there's a show that starts in January. It's the Best of Pride. That'll start running on Spike. So a lot of those old fights that a lot of these new people who have become, you know, fans of mixed martial arts through The Ultimate Fighter and through Spike will now get to see some of these older fights with Anderson Silva and Gilbert Ivell and Crow Cop, et cetera, et cetera.
His last fight with Josh Barnett really wasn't an outstanding performance. Do you know, has he changed anything up in his training or done anything different for this fight?
Yeah, he's been training. You know, he's looked at as a striker, but he's actually been training, you know, for years now with John Lewis. He's been working hard on his jiu-jitsu, and he does have a ground game. People think that he doesn't, but he definitely does. Huh?
For Rashad, over here. On the television series, some of the best moments were you and Rampage kind of talking back and forth, and it always seemed that you kind of let his words bounce off you. But hearing you talk about how difficult it was losing the belt, when he referred to that loss to Machida, was that some of the stuff that got to you the most?
You know, actually, that was probably the most healing part to help me get over the loss. You know, when you got somebody constantly making fun of you, saying the way you got knocked out and the way, you know, you look when you out of water, doing a stanky leg and all the crazy stuff that you're saying, you know, it kind of got you to laugh a little bit at the whole situation. And sometimes laughing at yourself is probably the best medicine, you know, and you get to look at it from a different point of view, you know, because to you it's very serious, but when somebody makes light of the situation or just makes you get to see it differently, in a different light, it helps you get over it. So that didn't upset me as much as, you know, when he like says like little quips or something like that, and I didn't really have nothing to say, like he just caught me off guard. That will make me mad, you know. But when he talked about me losing, it didn't bother me.
Dana, just on the whole Gilbert Yvel situation, obviously he's got a bit of a history. You know, the Mazzagotti comment was kind of funny. I'm sure you know where I'm going with that. Behind closed doors, I wonder who brought up the fact, hey, why don't we sign Gilbert Yvel, and how were those discussions because it's a big risk for you guys to sign this guy, and then what was the deciding factor to say, yeah, let's do this?
It was me that made the decision to sign him, and you know, I have a long relationship with John Lewis, who's been working with him, and you know, John's been trying to get him in the UFC now for quite a while. So it wasn't just, yeah, hey, let's throw Gilbert Yvel back in here. You know, we talked to him and took some time, and he assured me that he's going to be an absolute professional. So, listen, you guys know how I am. We all make mistakes. We'll see if you learn from them.
Okay, I got to do a follow-up here with you, Rashad. Dana, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I interpreted what you said earlier incorrectly. My understanding that I know how much you want to fight Rampage. I know how real that is. But according to Dana now, that fight is really very much dependent on how you do with Thiago. Basically, you need to win this fight. Is that something that you knew before signing this fight with Thiago? And now that you know that, does it change your perception at all?
When I took the fight with Thiago, Rampage wasn't even on the horizon. You know, it was very uncertain whether he was going to come back or not. So I took this fight just with the intentions of just fighting Thiago. As far as, you know, Dana's saying that and it being possible for me to fight him, you know, being if I win this fight, it doesn't change anything or, you know, say, oh, at extra motivation, I'm going to go in there and fight this fight the way I was going to fight it before, you know, if he had not said those words. So having Rampage at the end for a little dessert, you know, providing that I do win this fight is irrelevant to me. It doesn't even matter.
Question for Rashad. Rashad, one criticism that you've had in the past is starting slow, and this is your first 3-round fight since you fought Chuck. And Donald Cerrone, one of your teammates, had that issue and sought out some help, seemed to help him out. Have you done anything different in this camp, given that it's 3 rounds, to make sure you don't give a round away?
No, I can't really say anything particular that I've done to make sure I start fast, you know, but, you know, in practice I have been starting a bit quicker. You know, and you know, there's a couple of different issues that happens when a fighter starts slow, and sometimes it can just be focus. You know, where's his focus at in the beginning of the fight? And I think with just simply going in there and getting your mindset to go in there and start going right away, I think that can change whether I started fast or slow. Sometimes you get so inside your head that you're just like, okay, is this happening? Wow, the lights are bright. You know, Bruce Buffer sounds extra loud today. Wow, he almost pointed at the other guy. All these different things that can go in your head to make you really unfocused on what you should be doing. But as long as I'm in there focused, then I should do okay.
And a quick question for Dustin. Dustin, in the Countdown show, at some point they talked about that you were hazed a lot as a kid and that you were almost suicidal. Can you talk about how mixed martial arts played into getting away from those thoughts, how it saved your life?
Yeah, you know, martial arts for me is more than just fighting and winning fights, you know. Obviously that's the most glamorous part of it, but it, you know, it really has saved my life, and you know, it's helped a lot of people, and I think that, you know, a lot of people are getting away from the honor and respect that, you know, martial arts was brought up on, because it's mixed martial arts, you know, and I think that, you know, you need to be humble and, you know, learn the true essence of martial arts.
Any more questions?
For Thiago, please. So much the build-up and the discussion around this fight has been, does Rashad get Rampage next? And what's up with Rashad and Rampage? And I wonder how that makes Thiago feel, if he feels he's being disrespected by fans or media or overlooked by fans or media because of the Rashad and Rampage feud.
Você entendeu? Não. Ele está perguntando, todo mundo está perguntando sobre se o Rashad ganhou de você, vai lutar com o Rampage. Isso faz você se sentir desapontado com a falta de atenção dos fãs?
Não, para mim não faz a diferença nenhuma, porque eu tô aqui para lutar com os melhores. O Rashad para mim é um dos melhores. E com quem que o UFC quiser que eu lute, eu tô aqui para lutar, não tem diferença.
No, it doesn't really bother me. I'm here to fight the best. Rashad is one of the best, and I'm here to fight anybody who the UFC puts in front of me. So it doesn't really bother me.
And a quick follow-up also, if I could. I'm curious how this experience is for him being in the main event. Obviously, he had the title fight before, but this is the first time being at the top of the card. If there's any difference, you know, mentally right now as the fight's here approaching.
A pergunta é se você se sente, como se sente a primeira vez que você faz main event, se isso te atrapalha, se te bota mais pressão, como é que você sente?
No, this is a great opportunity for me. I feel very happy, but I don't like choice. I'm here just for fight, man. That's it.
Any other questions? All right. I'll square these guys off. We'll get this podium out of here and let you guys take some pictures. Thank you very much.